Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into an incredibly brief but absolutely emotionally crushing text. Now, we aren't analyzing some sprawling multi-volume epic today. Nope, we're actually looking at just 3 sentences. But these 3 sentences, they contain an entire universe of heartbreak, isolation, and ultimately the transformative power of art. It's this remarkable distillation of the human experience. It shows us just how rapidly a life can be completely upended by external forces and how the human mind processes that absolute devastation. So buckle up because the emotional density we're about to unpack here is truly profound. Okay, let me read the full translated source text for you. And I really want to read this with the gravity it demands. It will be done with a wealthy and influential person. When this news reached Majnu, his world was as if destroyed. He wandered in the desert for many days, and in every poem of his, the pain now became deeper than ever before. Wow. In just 3 quick beats, we go from a clinical decree of fate to a total psychological collapse, and finally right into eternal artistic expression. We're going to break this down piece by piece to understand exactly how this transformation works. All right, part 1, the wealthy catalyst. So every compelling tragedy needs an inciting incident, right? Here, Majnu's downward spiral is kicked off by a socioeconomic force that he has absolutely zero control over. Think about the sheer imbalance of power here. You've got the wealthy and influential person taking up all the space, representing resources, authority, and societal power. And Majnu? Total blank. His agency is completely erased. He's totally powerless against this tide. His entire fate is being dictated by wealth and influence, and his own desires are, well, entirely non-existent in this equation. And the exact phrasing used to deliver this blow is just chilling. The translation reads, "will be done." It's so cold and completely passive. It doesn't say there was a discussion. It doesn't say a difficult decision was made. It just states an inevitable future action will be done. It really drives home how Majnu's fate is completely sealed without a single drop of his consent or participation. He's not a player in his own life's major turning point. He's just a bystander, waiting to receive a verdict from people with power. Moving on to part 2, a world destroyed. What we see next is literally a rapid-fire domino effect triggered the very second that news arrives. His reality is just gone. Poof. There is no bargaining phase, there's no denial phase that the text even bothers to show us. The shift is instantaneous, and it is forever. We slam right from the arrival of the information into the absolute annihilation of his internal world, which pushes him straight into an ongoing desert exile and ultimately forever alters his poetry. To really grasp the weight of this, we need to zoom in on one specific word from the original text, ujad. It translates to destroyed or uprooted. And notice the sheer violence in that definition. His world wasn't just saddened, it wasn't just a bit disappointed or slightly altered. It was violently uprooted and laid to waste. It implies this total, scorched earth eradication of every single structure that previously gave his life meaning. So what you should really take away from this is the sheer totality of the loss. A personal reality is instantly shattered. Everything familiar is just gone, resulting in an inescapable emotional collapse. I mean, most of us have gone through a bad breakup, sure, but how often do external forces completely out of our hands, possess the power to shatter our entire reality in a fraction of a second? The text brilliantly captures a deeply universal human fear, the sudden, totally unpreventable collapse of the world as we know it. This brings us to section 3, Wandering the Desert. The text tells us he goes to the Registan, the desert. And what's fascinating here is that the desert is doing double duty. Obviously, yes, it's a literal, barren geographic location, but more importantly, it's used as a physical mirror, reflecting Majnu's shattered soul. His internal world was uprooted, so he instinctively gravitates to a landscape that is barren, incredibly isolating, and entirely devoid of the life and fertility he used to know. The harshness of the literal desert perfectly matches the harshness of his new internal reality. And what exactly is he doing out there? The text just simply says he wandered for many days. The absolute keyword there is wandered. There's no destination in mind. He isn't traveling to some new city to start fresh. He is experiencing absolute aimlessness. And honestly, this perfectly captures how deep, unprocessed grief actually operates. When our foundational reality is ripped away, we're left without any direction, no purpose, no map. He's literally just existing in the void, putting one foot in front of the other through the pain. Finally, Section 4, Pain Forges Deeper Poetry. Let's look at how this builds through a universally recognized blueprint of human expression. It's a three-step process. Step 1, the raw, agonizing trauma hits. Step 2, that trauma stews. It's processed through incredibly painful isolation and aimlessness. But then, we hit Step 3. The trauma doesn't just destroy him forever, it's slowly and very painfully distilled into profound artistic expression. The energy of his grief is literally converted into the energy of creation. The source text explicitly states that in every poem, his pain, became deeper than ever before. Actually, scratch that. Let's pause on that. He was already a poet before all this happened, right? He was already creating art. But this specific, crushing pain, born from total powerlessness, unlocked a much darker, much more profound depth in his voice. The loss acted like a crucible, completely burning away all the superficial stuff and leaving only this deeply resonant, heavy truth in his words. And why does this matter so deeply? Well, it points out that every single poem was affected. The emotional resonance of his work was permanently amplified. What could have just been a sad story of a guy defeated by a wealthy rival instead becomes a story of immortality. The temporary, crushing sorrow of his waking life is immortalized in his art. It really shows us how the human spirit survives, by taking the devastating things we can't control and channeling them into the beautiful, permanent things we can create. Which brings us to the end of our explainer and leaves us with a truly haunting question. Does true art always birth from deep pain? Majnu lost his entire world to a wealthy rival. He lost his direction to the harsh desert, but he gained a voice that echoed deeper than anything he had ever known before. So, can we ever reach our absolute highest creative potential without first having our world violently uprooted? It's a super provocative thought derived right out of these three brilliant sentences. I highly encourage you to reflect on it the next time you look at the art, the music, or the poetry that moves you the most. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep questioning the world around you.